So, over the past few months, one of the biggest topics in the NBA community is everyone trying to figure out what exactly is going on with San Antonio and Kawhi Leonard. And to many people's surprises, including myself, the San Antonio Spurs decided to trade not only Kawhi Leonard, but Danny Green to the Toronto Raptors, and in return, the Spurs will receive DeMar DeRozan, Pirtle, and a heavily protected first-round pick. And if we're going to be honest with ourselves, neither team won. The San Antonio Spurs just went from Kawhi Leonard to DeMar DeRozan, and they don't have a team that's built to suit DeMar DeRozan's strengths and weaknesses, so I really don't believe that the team is going to be as great as many people are expecting them to be. But then we have the Toronto Raptors. On the surface, it seems as if they've lost. I mean, there's absolutely no way that Kawhi Leonard is going to stay on the Toronto Raptors, right? I mean, the Toronto Raptors are a franchise that really have little to no history of success, and Kawhi Leonard has said numerous times, or it has been alleged, that he wants to play with the Los Angeles Lakers or the Los Angeles Clippers. However, after processing the trade itself and understanding all of the risk that the Toronto Raptors are willing to take through this transaction, I must admit, I might have actually done the exact same thing. And the only way that you'll thoroughly understand what I'm referring to is if you close your eyes and just for a quick second, imagine you as the Toronto Raptors general manager. And as a GM, let me just set up the whole scenario for you. The Toronto Raptors over the last 3 years just concluded the most success that they've seen in franchise history. They've consistently had 51 seasons, playoff appearances are expected, their two best players have not only been named All-Stars but also been selected to All-NBA teams, and this has been a franchise due to their inability to land any massive free agents or even keep any stars. Their standards and their expectations are significantly lower than a lot of other franchises in the NBA. But as a GM, you have to exceed expectations and maximize the window of success that you have at this moment. And as a GM, even though yes, the team has been significantly successful, especially comparing it to previous years in franchise history, the conclusion still ends up being the same, as the Toronto Raptors just embarrassingly ended their season by the hands of the Cavaliers yet again in a sweep. And so when you open your eyes, understanding reality, you are faced with two options.
And that's the reason why I believe they're making a mistake. LeBron is gone. The monster's gone. Like, why I want to rebuild my team, and the guy that's been destroying us, he's gone to the West.
So naturally, the first choice is to keep DeMar DeRozan, run it back for another year. Since LeBron is now out of the Eastern Conference, you probably have a better chance of making it further in the postseason and potentially making the NBA Finals. So let's just run through this hypothetical real quick, just so you thoroughly understand how irrational this thought process is. So you keep DeMar DeRozan, run it back with the same team, another successful 50+ win season, and then you go in the postseason, you struggle against whatever team you meet in the first round, and then you get knocked out in the second, potentially the third round by the Boston Celtics or the Philadelphia 76ers. The reason why I know for a fact that this is going to be the outcome is because DeMar DeRozan is not good enough to lead any team to the NBA Finals. This idea, and I know it was cute and it was a meme to say that the reason why the Toronto Raptors couldn't make it farther in the postseason is because how much LeBron dominated them and the Cavaliers always beat them and they were their kryptonite, and mentally they just weren't able to construct any type of offense to beat the Cavaliers. But that's full of baloney. The truth is that DeMar DeRozan, if he's going to be the best player on this team, he has to show up consistently throughout the postseason to make it further than what they've been able to make it. And I know many people are going to point out the fact that they've consistently lost to the Cavaliers over the last 3 years. However, even if we were to exclude all of the Cavaliers series over the last 3 years, you will clearly see it doesn't matter who DeMar DeRozan faced, he always underperforms. Which brings us to the bigger problem and the reality with keeping DeMar DeRozan on your roster. This is an organization that has built their identity over the last 3 years with two veterans in DeMar DeRozan and Kyle Lowry. Kyle Lowry is on an expiring contract after this upcoming season, and he's already in his 30s. DeMar DeRozan, it seems as if he's already hit a ceiling, and he's getting paid nearly $30 million every single year up into the year 2021. And so if you're telling me,
I said I want a rematch,
I'm gonna tell you, let's be honest, DeMar DeRozan, he ain't really cutting it no more, fam. And then after this upcoming season, Kyle Lowry, Valanciunas, Serge Ibaka will all be expiring, and you don't necessarily know if they'll be back. And then after that, you're stuck with DeMar DeRozan and paying him nearly $30 million. That means that eventually and inevitably, you're going to have to hit the restart button and rebuild the franchise.
All right, but if it doesn't work, at least it'll fail enjoyably.
Now, for those out there who are saying that, well, Kawhi Leonard is only a one-year rental, we just sat there and acknowledged that the only reason why you would bring back DeMar DeRozan is for one more year due to the fact that Kyle Lowry, Serge Ibaka, and Valanciunas are all on expiring contracts after this season has concluded, and more than likely you're going to have to hit the restart button due to the fact that there has been marginal growth with DeMar DeRozan. And so if you're only going to give the Toronto Raptors one more year to achieve whatever level of success that they possibly can, again, you might as well maximize that opportunity. And so bringing in Kawhi Leonard, who many people, including myself, believe at 100%, he is easily one of the top 5 players in the NBA, which would thus more than likely make him the best player in the Eastern Conference. Pair that with Danny Green on the perimeter, who's a really good 3-and-D player, Kyle Lowry at the point guard position, Serge Ibaka, Valanciunas, and then OG Anunoby, Norman Powell, and the slew of other great young players they have coming off the bench. That is a team that is greater than any team that the franchise has ever had in the history of its existence. And so if we're being optimistic, the season will more than likely conclude somewhere around 50 to 60 wins. Kawhi Leonard will go on to be an All-NBA performer. The organization will go on to compete not only in the first, second, but I immediately believe that they can make it to the conference finals. And depending on who they match up against, and depending on how great Kawhi Leonard can perform along with Kyle Lowry, OG Anunoby, Danny Green, and all the other players on that roster, they could potentially make it to the NBA Finals. And if we're being optimistic and the Toronto Raptors do make the NBA Finals, or heck, even the Conference Finals, I have a hard time believing it won't be just a little bit easier to convince Kawhi Leonard to stay on the team. Now, if I'm being extremely pessimistic here, Kawhi Leonard would join the roster. They would still win around 50 to 55 games. However, it doesn't work out. They end up getting knocked out in the second round, and Kawhi Leonard ends up leaving. Now, I know many people are saying, how is that being extremely pessimistic? And that's because if Kawhi Leonard goes on the roster and he plays good this season, and it's good enough to potentially convince you as a general manager that he could actually stay and this might actually work out, then you may miss your window of opportunity of trading him away to another team, which I believe is actually the perfect scenario for the Toronto Raptors. So what is the best way to move forward in the direction of a rebuild with as many assets as you potentially could collect? And that would be trading DeMar DeRozan, getting a better asset in Kawhi Leonard, and trading him off for more future assets for, again, an inevitable rebuild. And so if you're the Toronto Raptors and you can receive Brandon Ingram, Luol Deng, and a first-round pick just so the Los Angeles Lakers can secure the idea of them having Kawhi Leonard for the near future, then you put yourself in a situation heading into the rebuilding phase with more assets than you originally started off with. So my final thoughts on the trade: the San Antonio Spurs, I really don't know why people believe that they made the right decision by trading him off to the Toronto Raptors and in return received DeMar DeRozan. Sure, it makes them relevant for the next handful of seasons, but if we're looking at the bigger picture, having DeMar DeRozan on your team, that just isn't sufficient enough to compete in the Western Conference, and they easily could have gotten some young pieces from the Los Angeles Lakers, but allegedly they were asking for way too much, which is the reason why they were consistently turned down. So for the San Antonio Spurs, I'm going to give them a strong 4 to a light 3. And then when it comes to the Toronto Raptors, even though many people don't want to admit this, their hands were forced, just like the San Antonio Spurs, due to the marginal growth that we saw from DeMar DeRozan over the last 3 years. And if you're telling me that you were only going to give this core that featured DeMar DeRozan and Kyle Lowry one more season to figure out how great of a team they potentially can be, and then you were going to hit the restart button, then you might as well just maximize that opportunity by going after a better player for just a 1-year rental in Kawhi Leonard in hopes that he would either stay or you can flip Kawhi Leonard for more pieces down the line. But until then, we really won't necessarily know the true value of this trade. But as of right now, I'll give this trade a light 5 to a strong 6. Transition. Tell me what you think about the trade. Did you love it? Did you hate it? What would you rate it? You're the best. You're the best. Tell me what I should do next. And until then, forever yours, Legend of Winning. Peace.